Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another this and that video, and today I'm going to be talking about my Z powder, which is simply just dehydrated zucchini that has been then ground up into a powder. And that's just one of the things I'm going to talk about. And what I use is this Mr. Coffee coffee grinder, and it works really well. Now I've been doing a lot of experimenting with the Z powder, and I'm really loving it in breads. I've so far used it in making my basic yeast bread, which I do have a recipe on. I'll go ahead and link to right up here. Just the basic yeast bread, not that with the zucchini powder. But I will be doing a video sometime down the road on how I'm doing my basic yeast bread now with the zucchini powder, because it is a little bit different, because I'm substituting some of the flour with the zucchini powder, which also makes it more healthy, and it gives me another way to use up the zucchini that we have coming in like crazy around here. I've also used it in making tortillas, which turned out really good, but I didn't happen to get a picture of. And my latest thing I've used them in was making some pancakes, and they turned out excellent. And I do have a picture of those. And so I'll be doing an update video on the zucchini powder, how I make it, but basically I'm just dicing the zucchini up into smaller pieces, and some of it I'm preserving, I'm vacuum packing in the jars like that, and some I'm going ahead and going right to powdering up. Now this jar contains at least 8 regular size zucchini. Regular size meaning at least this size to a little bit bigger than that. And that's at least 8 of those in here. It dehydrates up so small that even with it like this, I can put about 3 to 4 or somewhere between 2 and 4 zucchinis in this one jar like this. It takes, once I take these jars and powder them up, it takes at least 3 of those jars to fill up one of these. So that also makes it a great space saver. If you think you're going to use it as a powder quite a bit, this is the best way to put it away, because it's going to take up the least amount of room. But I do like it in pieces like this, because I'm finding I like these just as well as the other ways that I talked about in my last dehydrating zucchini video. I'm liking this just as well as the other shapes, because I can toss these into soups and stews and even my homemade spaghetti sauce, and it's a nice size and shape for doing that with. Okay, so that's it for the zucchini powder. Be watching for more videos about this down the road and how I'm going to cook with it in my breads. And I'm also going to be experimenting with it in some other way. I had some other ideas that popped into my head, and I'll be talking about that down the road. Now some other things I want to talk about, the tomatillos. I've been doing some experimenting with the tomatillos, and because I still have tons of salsa from the last 2 to 3 years that I put up, so I don't think I'm going to put up any salsa this year, but I tried last night making some spaghetti sauce using these, just because I wanted to see how it turned out, to see if it might be a viable replacement for tomatoes in a spaghetti sauce. Now while it was good and we liked it just fine, it's really not what you expect when you have spaghetti. The flavor was just a little too tangy for a spaghetti sauce, but it was still quite good. Not very pretty, but tasty enough that we'll finish it off, but I probably won't do that again. However, I'll be doing some more experimenting with the tomatillos and other ways that I can use them, since I don't plan on putting up any more salsa, and probably I won't be putting up any more relish either, because I hardly used any of what I canned up last year. But I do have recipes out, videos out on how I make both the relish and the salsa. I'll link to one of those right up here at least. I know I'm going to run out of iCards up here, so be patient with me, and if I run out and I can't put them up here on the end screens or whatever, you can do a search on my channel. Just look for that little search bar right on the channel page. You can do that with anyone's page. And also I'll be linking to this coffee grinder below, because I've been really happy with it. I actually got my first one at a garage sale for $4. It was brand new and never used, and I really like the idea of having 2, one just for coffee and then one for everything else. So I bought a second one. Now right here is the peppermint extract that you saw me make, if you've been watching me for at least a month or so, in one of my this and that videos. I'll go ahead and link to that video right up here, and within that video I also link to my other extract videos, because I've been trying different ways of making extracts, and this so far is one of the most frugal ways. And I'm going to still be doing some more tweaking and working with different ways so that I don't always have to rely on a high proof alcohol for making a good extract. Now this turned out excellent. I'm going to let it sit for a little bit longer, but I couldn't wait to try it even though it's only been maybe about 6 weeks. I like to leave it for 2 months, but the peppermint, thankfully, it's just really strong anyway. So this was the mixture I made, if you didn't see that video, with my homemade grape wine from our own homegrown grapes and some food grade glycerin. This is non-GMO. This is the one I recommend because you can get the best price on it. You know it's non-GMO, and that's one of the really important things to look for. And it's probably a little sweeter than I would like. So on this next batch, I decided while I still got peppermint growing, I really wanted to get another batch going because I'm so happy with this. But I used a little bit less glycerin and a little bit more wine. And here's the nice thing about using the homemade wine over the vodka. Well, here's a couple things. It's a lot cheaper because it's homemade, and it's less alcohol content. Now, of course, that's going to bring the shelf life of it down, where if you have a high proof alcohol, it's going to last indefinitely. But when you're using food grade glycerin and water, which is one way you can do it completely alcohol free, you're looking at about a 4-month shelf life. I'm going to guess it would probably last longer than that. And if you choose to keep it in the refrigerator, it should last even longer. Now with the wine in there, I'm thinking it was going to last longer than 4 months. I would say a guess, this is just a guess, keep in mind, that probably up to a year. And I don't plan on keeping it in the fridge. And with this one, I did raise the amount of wine that I put in it so that I can have it just a little less sweet. But the sweetness, the natural sweetness, it's not the kind that's going to raise your glycemic level, of the glycerin just does give it a really nice flavor when you're talking about any of your extracts. Now, with that in mind, speaking of extracts, this one right here was made by a friend, and she used Everclear in this. And she lives just right around the corner from me and recently got herself a Buddha's hand tree. And that's a citrus fruit, and I'll go ahead and put a picture of it right here. Now this is Buddha's hand extract. It's not made from her own tree because she's probably got a couple years yet before she'll get fruit on hers, but this is really good. Now I've never tried Buddha's hand, but I'm very curious about it, and tasting this, it's super duper strong. I can just imagine all the wonderful things I can do with this extract in cakes and stuff like that. Because I do actually make a Black Forest cake from scratch. I love making Black Forest cake. I only do it once a year at the most, but every so often, because pie cherries, we don't have any now because I lost my pie cherry tree, and pie cherries are expensive to buy. You can only buy them pre-canned as a pie filling with all the high fructose corn syrup and all that kind of stuff. So I tried to come up with other ways to take the basic idea of the Black Forest cake and use different flavors like raspberry or orange, and they turn out really good when I do that. So the extract is a really good option to use in place of the cherry brandy that you'd put on the cake, which I forgot the name of, but it's a German brandy. It's got a German name to it, and I can't remember what it is, but I've bought it before, and you put that on there and on the cake when you're making it. And who knows, one of these days maybe I'll make a Black Forest cake and show you how I do it. Moving on, the other thing I wanted to talk about was soap making. So if you're new to my channel, I do have several videos out on how to make soap, and this one here I'm getting ready to wrap and put up on my store. This is the grapefruit calendula bentonite clay, and I have a video specifically on this recipe, and I'll go ahead and link to it right up here if you're interested in learning how I do that. I do also have a couple more just basic soap making videos. I've been making soap for a few years. I really love it. I don't get super fancy. I just like using the only added ingredients besides the necessary ones for making soap, like your lye and your fat, are the essential oils. When it comes to everything else I use for color and whatever else, it all is herbs from my garden. Or I shouldn't say all herbs from the garden, because I also use dehydrated peels because we have yet to grow good citrus here. I'm hoping my friend's Buddha's hand will do really good for her though. But I do like to get organic citrus fruits so that I can then dehydrate up the peels, and if I don't use them for flavoring, I like to use them in my soap. So that's one of the additions, along with adding herbs like calendula and borage and dandelion and pansies and anything that's really good for the skin, nasturtiums and stuff like that. And then the other thing I also like to use are spices that maybe I don't already grow, like cloves and cinnamon and things like that. I will add those into my soaps as well. But it's really fun, but I need to get busy and get some more made up because I'm out of my peppermint tea, or almost out of my peppermint tea. This is one of the best-selling soaps that I have, is the peppermint tea soap. I use my own peppermint tea blend, and I actually have a video on my tea blend. It's mostly mints, and so that's why I call it peppermint tea. I'll go ahead and link to that video right up here. But that is what that's the herbs I use in the soap, and then some peppermint extract. And it just makes a really nice scented soap that both men and women really like. And all the herbs that you put in the soap and all these other things just give it a good, nice scrubby feel. So it's really good for washing your hands with, or just rubbing directly onto your skin when you're taking your shower. And then right here are some of the molds I like to use. I do have the big brick type mold, and I'll do that from time to time, but my favorite way for some reason is just doing it like this and then shaping each bar individually so they look like that. It's just my favorite way. And then I can just do 6 bars at a time. I can do 12 bars at a time since I have 2 of these. And then any excess, I like to fill these little candy molds and then make little small soaps that I'll throw into. When people order a skirt, sometimes I'll throw in a little bit of maybe 3 little soaps in there, and just as an extra little gift. And it's just kind of a fun thing to do. Also makes a good idea for making soaps for children. Some fun ones, because these are some real fun shapes. So I'll link to all these soap molds below. Now, as far as making homemade wine, I'm still considering doing a video of that. I'm kind of having a little bit of issue with it because I don't personally drink for my own spiritual convictions, and I just kind of feel like maybe there might be a bit of a moral dilemma there, teaching people how to make their own wine. But maybe there's plenty of people out there that are like me that don't drink and want to have this option, a way to make their own, to be frugal, because wine does have a lot of great purposes in the kitchen and in your health, believe it or not. Now right here is the last of my apple wine, which I'm going to be making more of. I actually like it better than the one I made with the grapes. This one I really like for stir fries. Really, really like this one. And then this one I'll use in my pasta water when I'm cooking pastas. It adds a nice flavor to the noodles. And also in my spaghetti sauces and things like that. It's really good in your Italian sauces, putting in some homemade wine, or even if it's store-bought. So there's lots of great purposes for your wine, and that includes making extracts. That does not have to be just making flavored extracts like this one with the peppermint, but that can also include medicinal extracts. Now notice I'm calling them extracts and not tinctures. If you want it to be a tincture, we're only going to need maybe a teaspoon to a tablespoon at a time, then you need to use vodka or any other 80 proof and above alcohol. Like she did here, she used the Everclear for the Buddha's hint. But if you're looking for something with a lower alcohol content, or even no alcohol, you can go glycerin, you can go vinegar. If you use glycerin, you have to mix it with something like either water to have it be completely alcohol free, or even vinegar if you don't mind the flavor. Or you can mix it with your wine like I did here, and it's turning out really good. So I'll be doing more experiments with it medicinally. I've made medicinal extracts using homemade vinegar that worked really well for me. My pain remedy with the feverfew, catnip, and a couple other herbs, and then using vinegar. I've done some using vodka. So I'm going to try making a pain remedy this year using my own homemade wine. That's going to be one of the cheapest ways. Your homemade vinegar or your homemade wine is the most frugal way to go when you're talking about making a medicinal extract. Now you have to keep in mind too that if it's an extract, you're going to need to take more of it to get the same results, because it's not going to be as strong. The higher proof the alcohol, the more of the benefits it's going to draw out of the herbs. But what I do is I pack in a lot of herbs, and I let it I let it extract for a longer period of time, you know, up to 4 months, and I take more of it at a time. Now I'm thinking with the wine-based, the wine solvent extract, I'm thinking maybe 1 to 2 tablespoons might be good. We'll see when I make it. I'll be doing a video down the road of making a couple of different medicinal extracts using the wine, and then also trying them out and see how they work, see how much I need to get the same result as one with made with the high proof alcohol or made with the vinegar, and so I can do that comparison and then share it with you. Because I really like being frugal, I'd really like to get away from having to buy high proof alcohol, even though that's the best for long-term shelf life and all that. I do think there's just better ways to do it to save money and to be a little bit more self-sufficient. And of course, if you have a still, you can make your own high proof alcohol and then you don't have to worry about that. So anyway, be watching for those down the road. One of the things I wanted to say is with the vinegar-based and the alcohol-based, I found very little difference in how well they worked, other than the fact that I just needed to take more of the vinegar-based. So again, I think somewhere in between with the wine-based ones should work really well. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. And for those of you who are new, my this and that videos are just a way for you to kind of catch up on what I've been doing for the past couple weeks, what I've got going on, what I will be doing, and to introduce you to some of my older videos that you may not have seen yet. Okay, thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.